Yeah, everyone say hi, please. Let us know where you're calling from today, where you're showing up from, where you're zooming from.
Yeah.
We're zooming straight from Portugal.
Mhm.
Heidi says hello from Texas.
Yeah.
Hi. Pretty sure it's going to be hotter there than it is here. It's cool, even though I'm in this. It's cool at the moment and
Windy, you know, it's been a windy year.
yes. Maria from Ireland, hello. Talita from Germany, hi. Beth Brown from Colorado, hi. Agneta from Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden, hello. Hello, everyone. Are you streaming? Did you stream it? Awesome.
It says it is.
Okay, good that it is. Okay, so just to remind everyone, Laura J. Howdy from the west coast of Florida. Hello. Okay. Let me post this.
Okay.
Yes. On my phone so I can monitor the comments on Facebook and YouTube. So, first things first. Trick question. Is riding the horse through the back only about the back? If you have attended any of the 3 previous live trainings this week, you probably already know the answer, and you might already know the answer anyway, but we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then who knows where else the convo will go. Just like yesterday, you know, we started talking about judges' comments, and then it didn't end up about that at all. We ended up talking most of the time about the seat. The role of the seat, how you can shape the seat, shape the horse with your seat, how you can influence the horse with your seat. Ended up being a conversation way beyond judges' comments, which is the way it goes sometimes. And it's a conversation. This isn't a static thing where we're just going to talk about this. We go wherever it goes, even if we end up talking about something off the wall sometimes. Yeah, so as many of you know, we have a brand new course opening up or just about to start. It's open for enrollment right now. It's called Through the Back. That's why we're talking about these through the back topics right now. On our minds, it's our focus right now. Talking about through the back, throughness, permeability, the horse being on the aids, on the seat, all of these things. And that's what we're going to be covering in this course. We would love to have you join us in the course. Go check it out. Click the link that I just provided. Check it out. Even if you're not sure, just go check it out. All the modules are listed on there, everything we're planning on covering. But actually, I know that we'll be covering more than we listed there, because we'll be doing a lot more about transitions than is included in those module listings. So it's already evolved since we have put that up on the enrollment page. And that's the nature of this kind of course. It's a beta course, which means this is the first time we're teaching this course, which means we take the questions and suggestions and requests of our students in the course, and we incorporate that into the material. When we find out what you need in order to learn best, we put that into the course and it becomes part of the course. So, can you repeat the question, please? Maria asked. I missed it. Okay, it's a trick question. Are you ready? Is riding the horse through the back only about the back? Okay, now I'm going to quickly go check the comments everywhere, and you can already start to talk or read comments or whatever you want to do. Because I have to monitor Facebook and YouTube.
So yeah, of course, that was a rhetorical question, right? Nothing is ever just about one body part. It's always about how all the body parts work together, how they interact, how they influence each other, how movement is transmitted, or how energy is transmitted from one part to the next. And yeah, the energy can sometimes be movement, you know, when the hind leg hits the ground and then starts to push the body up and forward, then it's like a mechanical impulse almost that starts with the hind leg and then gets passed along from vertebra to vertebra, and then that energy gets recycled. But there's also other forms of energy that you can swirl around the horse and recycle and send into different pieces. I mean, it's you know, your weight is one form of energy that you can direct into any one of the four legs and move it around from side to side, back to front, and so on. So I always visualize the weight as something liquid, you know, that you can move anywhere, hopefully. You know, if the horse is open and permeable and through and the back is functioning properly, then you can send your body weight anywhere. But also there's, you know, energy impulses like from your leg, from the rein, that connect to different body parts and trigger movement, and so they're not necessarily mechanical. They, I don't know, would be a whole conversation in itself what that is, you know, because some of it is also just mental, intellectual, neurological kind of energy, you know, transmitting thoughts, pictures, and so on to the horse and communicating with touches and so on, that you would like the horse to move in a certain way, or you know, move the shoulders, move the hips, you know, whatever, become faster, slower, taller, shorter, you know, whatever you can do. Right? So and then you have this orchestra of the aids that works with all of these different energies, you know, mechanical and otherwise, and all these energies have to pass through the back. I think we talked about that a little bit yesterday already.
But not everybody has been here.
Yeah, the back is like,
That's worth repeating anyway.
like a big intersection where all roads come together and cross, and everything has to go through that intersection. Any kind of energy, regardless of whether it's movement or it's a mechanical impulse or a neurological impulse or anything.
I was going to say neurologically this is the case anyway, but metaphorically too, that everything that we do in the training of the horse passes through the back.
Yeah, anything that goes from the hind legs to the front or vice versa, anything that goes from the rider into the horse or from the horse into the rider, it has to go through the back. And if the back is working properly and relaxed and lifted and swinging and so on, then all these roads can connect, and every impulse that passes through that intersection can reach its destination. But if that intersection isn't working for some reason, if the traffic light is out, then everything stops there. Right? It could be that the back is tight and then it just everything gets stuck and, you know, all the cars pile up. Sometimes, you know, if the rider's muscles around the lumbar spine are not toned enough, then that becomes a little bit like a black hole or like a big sinkhole. All the energies seem to kind of disappear in that area of the rider's body, you know, because you know, the rider's body, the horse's body, the rider's back, the horse's back, they're connected too. And if the rider's hips are tight but the lumbar spine is too wobbly, then that blocks the intersection of the horse. And it is like whatever comes from behind, from the hind legs, does not pass the rider's seat and doesn't get passed on to the front, so it won't arrive in the reins, for example. So there's always the two sides of the coin, you know, the horse and the rider. And on the one hand, we try to balance and straighten and supple the horse in such a way that, you know, all the muscles are working in a relaxed way, working with each other, not against each other. But at the same time, you know, we have to also make sure that our body is permeable, that our body allows energy to go through, that we're not blocking it by clenching our butt cheeks and stuck, you know, or, you know, being crooked, or by being too like a wet noodle in our lumbar spine, for example. Those would always also be factors that stop the energy transmission from back to front to back, left to right, right to left, and so
Right,
on.
too tightened, some places too loose, some places crooked. Contradicting yourself, like your legs saying you want to go forward and then you're clenching the reins or leaning, hunching forward, your pelvis tipping forward. These are all things that tell the horse not to go forward. And the two of them together can create tension in the horse because that's a contradiction.
Yeah.
What else?
Yeah. So as you can see, it's not just the back of the horse, it's the entire body that has to work together, and the rider's body in addition.
Yeah.
It's not sufficient for the horse to be functional, so to speak, and balanced and supple and straight. But the rider has to do her part as well. The rider has to be balanced and straight and supple so that the rider can direct the energy, channel it, close some doors, open other doors. But there always has to be at least one door open where the energy can flow.
Right.
Regardless of where you want it to go. It's just you have to open one door for the energy to flow. Because if you don't, if all doors are closed, the horse will explode, and then they buckle their rear, or something bad happens.
Applicable to all of the training. That's really helpful in everything that you do to think of it that way, of creating energy and then letting it go, directing it to where you want it to go, and always giving it an outlet, whether it's forward, sideways, up. Yeah, backwards. Sometimes that's what you want, right? I wanted to also say that, throughness is not just something static that you either have or don't have. It's something that you develop, you polish, and it's something that develops on a continuum. So just like straightness, just like balance, just like all of these elements, it's something that continually improves through the training of the horse. And it's something that you revisit over and over with new and new clarity. So you're never really done working on it in a good way. There's always more that you can polish. And this is a great thing that you don't just say, oh, okay, that's as through as my horse can get. No, you can continue to make the horse even better, more and more through by removing all of these blockages and by making sure that the energy flows everywhere and suppling the horse everywhere. So you want the neck and the poll to be supple. You want the shoulders to be equally supple. You want the rib cage to be supple. And you want the hips to be supple. When the horse is completely supple laterally, you can then develop longitudinal suppleness. And that's when you develop really good throughness. Yeah.
It's like walking up a spiral staircase, right? You keep working on the same topics and revisiting the same issues, just every time you are one floor higher up.
Yeah.
So it's more refined, and you see new aspects, and every time you walk up one floor of your spiral staircase, you have a different view, wider view, because you're higher up, right? So you see more details.
Or it's like with a microscope, you're turning up the magnification and you're looking at it in finer and finer and finer detail, and you see more. Then, of course, in one magnification, you might, there's nothing on my slide, there's nothing there, it's fine, and then you turn up the magnification, you're like, holy crap, look at all of that. Look at all that stuff swimming around on there. Look at all of this stuff going on in the horse. Oh my gosh, there's stiffness there, and I didn't realize it. There's a blockage there, and I had not noticed it. I had not looked there. I had not paid attention. We all go through this in the training of the horses, and this is this spiral nature. You're always coming back around and looking at it again and again, and fine tuning, polishing. I always think of it as polishing a rock. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else you want to say on that note? Any tangents?
We've talked about these things in the last 3-4 days.
But not everyone that's here, not everyone watching has seen the other ones. Especially on YouTube and Facebook.
Main point of today is really that it's always about the whole body, and how the entire body of the horse and of the rider work together, how that becomes one complete whole, and I always visualize the riders in the horse's body as being hollow, like a system of pipes, and where they're all connected, right? And you can pour water or some liquid through these pipes, and it should be able to go from any part of the system to any other part of the system. And that only works if all these pipes are clear, no clogs, no blockages, no holes in the pipes, And in real life, of course, some of the pipes are clogged, some of the pipes have holes, and then you have to be the plumber who fixes all that with your training, and then that's a full-time job basically, because things break again, things clog up after you clean them, holes reappear after you've patched them up. It's just like with balance and suppleness and straightness. Nothing is like a computer program that you can download and then it's there for the rest of the horse's life or for the rest of your life. Things are always in flux, always in motion, everything changes all the time. And if you focus on one thing for a while and maybe you're forgetting about some other things, then suddenly there's an issue in things that used to be good, and then because you got preoccupied with something else, things got sloppy, and you lost track of those a little bit. And then when you come around and look at these again, and you see, oh my God, this is not as good as I remember it. Or I guess it's like when you have a garden and you don't weed for a while, the weeds take over, and then you're surprised. This used to look so nice. Right. So, and that's one of the challenges too, to always keep an eye on everything. And even if you focus on one thing or one detail, never lose sight of the whole picture. Periodically go look at all the other things, make sure everything is still on track, and
it's like, instead of just focusing on straightness, let's say, it's straightness and suppleness, straightness and throughness, straightness and balance. And so it's not it's not straightness or this, it's that you're adding in this, you're checking your straightness, plus you're checking for suppleness, you're checking for everything. That applies to everything. We can take any couple of elements and it's and this. And as you develop your writing and your training, you can keep track of more than 2, 3, 4 elements at a time. Easier. It gets easier. Initially, you might only be able to focus on 1 or 2 things at a time, and then you go back and forth between those things, and then you go and check the others. Then, okay, now those are kind of okay. Now I need to check my seat, things like that, and check all the other things, and then come back to the other things that you were focusing on. But eventually, you can. It's like you're able to juggle not just 3 balls, but you can juggle 6 balls. Yeah. We can read some comments, but I thought before we get there, maybe let's talk about what our specific approach towards training throughness is. Because a lot of people, it's just run the horse forward. The myths and misconceptions, what a lot of people think it is, what our approach is different, how our approach is different. Yeah.
Well, it's a holistic approach. I mean, it's the way same way we approach balance and straightness and suppleness in a way. Because they're all connected with each other, right? You cannot have a horse that is through the back, but on the forehand or crooked or stiff somewhere, So you have to work on all of these, and you do it by picking a line of travel, putting the horse's feet on that line of travel. I always visualize like the left legs of the horse on the left side of that line, the right legs on the right side, and the horse's spine should form a segment of that line. Then you try to find a rhythm and a tempo and a stride length and an energy level that suits the horse, where the horse can balance himself and relax, right? So you have to find the right tempo in terms of how many strides per minute the horse is moving, at the walk, at the trot, at the canter. There's always this green zone where the horse can get balanced and comfortable and relax. There's always a lower limit and an upper limit. If the tempo is too slow, the horse will not find his balance, will not be comfortable. He'll stay locked up and stiff, and the back will not work properly. Then there's the upper limit. If the horse is too fast, same thing. He'll be on the forehand. He'll be stiff. He'll be leaning. The back will be braced. Maybe the paw will be locked up, and so on. So you have to find what's the lower limit, what's the upper limit, and then you stay between them. Which means sometimes you may have to experiment a little bit. What if I slow down a little bit? What if I speed up a little bit? Does it feel better? Does it feel worse? Right? Sometimes you have to search a little bit for the right parameter settings, so to speak. And then, of course, there is a stride length. You have the tempo. Then there is a stride length that somehow matches that. And some horses naturally have big, long strides. Like some of the warm bloods are pretty big. Other horses have kind of shorter strides. And you start with whatever is convenient for the horse or whatever feels comfortable to the horse. And then as they become balanced and through and relaxed and so on, then you can start to vary the stride length, like shorten the stride, lengthen the stride, and so on. But first you have to start with the easiest stride length for the horse, which is different for each one, right? Different from breed to breed, different from individual to individual, and so on. When you have a tempo and a stride length, also an energy level that works. And the same thing, there's a lower energy level and an upper energy level. Not enough energy level is just like trying to cook a meal, but without turning on the stove, right? Then you can wait for a long time and it won't be cooked, right? Or if you turn the stove up too high, your food will burn, it won't taste good either. So there is this upper and lower limit of temperature that the food needs in order to be cooked right. And it's same with the horse, not enough energy, then he'll just be dragging his feet and the energy of the hind legs will never actually reach the reins, so there's no recycling. If you have too much energy, the horse gets hot, tense, he'll lean on you probably, he'll brace against you. So that's not good either. So you have to find the right energy level. And once you found the energy or the parameter settings that work for your horse, where the horse feels comfortable, he can relax, he can balance himself, then you can go looking specifically for, well, how mobile are the shoulders? Can I turn the shoulders left or right? How mobile are the hips? Could I ask the hips, the pelvis of the horse to yield a little to the left or to the right? Can I bend the spine left or right? And that bending, has something to do with the weight distribution, left to right, right to left. Like, could I shift the weight to the left and bend my horse to the right? Could I shift the weight to the right, bend my horse to the left? And as you check shoulders, pelvis, spine, you'll usually find that something could be better, right? Nothing's ever perfect. And could be that your horse turns the shoulder well to the left, but not so well to the right, or or he bends well to the right, but not so well to the left. And then you can work on that, and you can choose exercises that mobilize these body parts. The more you mobilize them, the more balanced he becomes, the straighter he becomes, the more supple he becomes. And as you improve balance, straightness, and suppleness, the energy will flow better, and he will become a lot more through the back and light and round and more, self-mobilizing, I guess, self-locomotion. Self-locomotion. The horse becomes self-propelled. You don't have to drive anymore. It's kind of a funny thing. And now I put up our codes of truth, I call them, to write the exercises of the course because we want to film them, and that's interesting because I hadn't ridden with Cohen, so first we knocked a few down.
Well, you've ridden with Cohen, but not in a while.
Not in a while, yeah. It's been months
Yeah.
since I put out cones, and we didn't really have good cones. We just bought some more, and so first there were some casualties, and now I don't knock them down anymore. And the more accurate my arena patterns are, the rounder and softer my horse goes, and the more he collects, like by himself. It's really
Like the
kind of
first day
interesting.
riding in the cones, I swear my horse for every cone we knocked out everyone. I was like, oh my God, seriously? You'd think I hadn't done this before.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
If you don't ride at that level of
It
precision, then things get sloppy, you know?
forces greater attention to detail, which is a
And-
good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, now I'm to the point where I can ride patterns with the reins in one hand and without knocking cones down, so. Practice, man.
Polishing the rock.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see things in action. You see all the things we always talk about in theory. You see how they actually work. So it's not just theory, and we're not just talking a good story, but it actually works. It's really the way it is.
And we actually walk the walk.
Yeah.
You know, we walk our talk,
Mhm.
I should say, or we trot our talk.
Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting. And
Yeah.
arena patterns, train your horse if you ride them well.
Yeah.
You know, that's why the correct line of travel helps the horse become balanced and straight. That helps the horse become relaxed and use the back, and that helps the horse make a good rein contact. It's like one thing leads to another. And because of that increasing balance and suppleness and throughness, you can then start to work to develop impulsion and collection more and more. So it's like you can see how one thing leads to another. And on the other hand, if you're sloppy and the horse pushes through the one shoulder, or he knocks, you know, he throws the haunches to one side, he loses balance, he loses his straightness, then that means he needs to brace in order not to fall down. So softness, suppleness go out the window, and the nice rein contact goes out the window. The back is no longer really swinging, the gait becomes jarring, and then you have this.
And there's concussion to the joints on each stride. This is why throughness is so important for the soundness of the horse. That we get the horse into a state of throughness, because that entails all the things that keep the horse sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the culmination of all the things that also keep the horse sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the result of these things is throughness, and it's also continued preservation of soundness. You'd think I could talk. Yeah, we have some comments here, and I have one question on here. I don't know if there were any questions on here, but let's get to the question first.
Yeah,
Okay, so Emily Gervalund asks, could you please give some examples on figures and exercises to ride? Sorry for my spelling in English.
Oh,
There's
how much time do you have?
a multitude of them, and that's what we include in our Through the Back course. But it entails a combination of things that supple the rib cage, that engage the hind legs.
I mean, these exercises are always a combination of bending, turning, sidestepping, and then often transitions, you know, because you can stop, you can do, you know, walk, trot transitions, or whatever, you know, any type of combination. But it's always the core is always bending, turning, and then usually there's an element of sidestepping. You can use round patterns like circles, voltas, figure eights, serpentines, or you can use angular patterns like squares, rectangles, triangles. Some horses get really round when and balanced and so on when you ride angular patterns. Some horses benefit really from the round patterns, the circles, voltas, etc.
It depends on where the blockages are in their bodies, and so we use a combination of these. It's going to be different for what your horse needs. It's going to be different than what Sandy Kern's horse needs, perhaps, or Beth Brown's horse. You know, just to name some of the people with commenting in the chat. So it depends on the individual needs of your horse, but
yeah, we have, you know, in the course we have exercises for each module. And this time for this course, I put together usually 2 pattern-based exercises and then 1 stirrup stepping, because that stirrup stepping plays a big role in balancing and straightening and getting the back to activate and to swing and to lift. And so on.
Those are usually just ridden on a circle line. Or you couldn't also ride them around whole school, but often just on a circle so that you're not having to concentrate on turning and bending and all of these things.
Right.
You're just concentrating on getting your timing down of the stepping into the stirrups.
Yeah.
And these are just for those of you, many of you are already familiar with stirrup stepping that are opening today. But those of you that aren't, the stirrup stepping, it's a subtle weight aid. So it's based in the nature of the horse. It's natural for the horse to respond to. One of the questions we had yesterday was, do horses understand stirrup stepping? And it was a great question because, yes, they inherently understand it. They don't have to be taught.
Yeah, it's a weight aid. That's why it's intuitive. Like weight aids are really the only aids that are totally intuitive for the horses.
Yeah.
Leg aids and rein aids are really acquired skills. The horses have to learn to understand what they mean. But weight is physics, applied physics. That's just gravity, and that's why the horses immediately understand it and go with it. The rider has to learn how to apply stirrup stepping aids. The horse doesn't have to learn how to respond.
And it's mostly for the rider about getting the coordination down. We start with patterns that are really simple. You can do in rising trot so that they're really simple to do. That figures out the timing already for you. Oftentimes you can do them in sitting trot too, of course. You don't have to do them in rising trot, but it's often easier to learn them first in rising trot because then you're always sitting down. If you're posting on the main diagonal, then you're always sitting down when that diagonal touches down. So you always know that those are the two legs you're talking to. Unless, of course, you like to buck the common rules and you like to do your stirrup stepping when you're up in the saddle, which a few people like to do. It's kind of against the conventional rules, but hey, who cares if it helps your horse? Who cares? All that really matters is your horse's opinion. That's really all that matters. Yes. Okay, let's read some of these. Yeah, go ahead.
Says I've already benefited from the TTB course even
Through the
before
back.
through the back before I started. I did my starting point video and was surprised, shocked at what I saw. No wonder we're having issues with the canter work. We have a lot of work to do. It's universal. Well,
Yeah.
As promises the other day at my lesson, we worked on changing bend from shoulder into renvers and back. Good. We did this many times at walk and then trot. We were trying to get my aids to be as light as possible and still have Ella hear me. It proved to be harder than I would have thought. We tried using very slow trot so that she kept her legs directly under her.
Yeah.
It was very illuminating. The more we did this, the more supple and rounder she became. Who would have thought that such slow, and I mean slow work would have produced such great results? It's good.
That's what I'm talking about. And the proof is in the horse.
Yeah, you have to find the tempo that works for the horse. Every horse has their own. Some have a naturally quicker tempo, some have a slower. Some of them you need to slow down, some of them you need to speed up a little bit.
And especially in the beginning when they're learning, trying to figure out something new that's hard, initially doing these shoulder into renvers transitions, keeping the angle but changing the bend can be hard for some horses, most horses initially. And so really slowing it down, keeping the energy in them, but slowing it down so the horse can really concentrate and slowly work on figuring out how to change the bend. It can be really helpful. It's the kindest thing to do for your horse. You give them that chance.
So, Maria, I understand that if you have too much movement in other body parts, the muscles around your lumbar spine are not working properly. What other warning signs should riders watch out for? How can you engage those muscles without bracing yourself? I mean, if you have too much movement in your hands or your legs or your head, it's usually a stiffness in the hip joints, I find. And when the hips are locked up in the rider, often the muscles around the lumbar spine are not engaged enough. That was, at least for me, that's usually what happened. And it's good if you try to trace, like it's like a series of domino pieces that fall down, and often we only see the last domino piece. But that's not where the actual problem is. That's just the very last symptom, in a long chain of symptoms. And we have to try to follow that causality chain back to the beginning. Like, what's the first thing the first domino that fell over. And for me, it always led to my abdominal and back muscles somehow. Other people may be different, I don't know. But for me, it was always not enough stability around the waist, and then locking up in my hips, and then tipping forward with my shoulders, and that sort of.
And it's not a bracing. You can use your core muscles, for lack of a better encompassing word, okay, without bracing. You can go to the point of bracing, right? But there's a continuum. There's the lightest engagement to the most engagement, which becomes bracing, but you can stay in a golden zone that has influence over the horse without causing undue tension in your body.
Yeah, I find a good way to create stability without bracing is to stretch your legs back and down, as if you wanted to step with your heels on the toes of the hind legs of the horse, and then rise up. You know, it's like you stretch in both directions. Like, let your legs become like roots of a tree that grow down, deep down into the earth, and then your tree can grow tall from, you know, the roots.
Yeah.
And this stretch kind of in both directions, I find that allows you to become very stable and elastic. So you're not wobbly, you're not floppy, you're not bracing anywhere against the horse, and then you have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree. Letting yourself grow, like you said, I always think of like a tree and the roots and the branches growing simultaneously. And I also picture my vertebra, okay, and I picture space stretching in between each one as I'm letting myself get taller. Like I was demonstrating there as he was talking. There was, you know, there I haven't done anything different with my seat, but I'm, you know, 2 inches taller, you know, because I've elongated within myself, but I'm not bracing as I'm doing that. I'm still, you know, I could go so much that I would brace upward, and that's too much. Right? So you can find where the range is, your golden zone.
Yeah. It's always the upper limit and lower limit, right? So same, you can always do too much and you can do too little. Like no stretch and you're just like a limp noodle, kind of, you know, like a little pile. Yeah. It's not good. But if you stretch so much that now you're rigid like a metal rod, that's not good either. So there's somewhere in between the limp noodle and the steel rod, somewhere there is a good happy balance, happy medium, where you're elastic, stable, and you can influence the horse without bothering him, right? And that's often really the big task for the riders, to find that optimal combination of stability and mobility. I mean, I struggled with that for many years. That was the hardest thing. I was either rigid or I was floppy, and I just could never get it right. And then, you know, over many years, I was able to figure it out, basically. I mean, my teachers were not big explainers. They were very intuitive, talented riders. So they couldn't really explain the nitty-gritty so much. So it took me longer probably than it needed to. But yeah, it's this weird, like, where do I need to stabilize so I can let go somewhere else, right? Like if I'm holding tension somewhere, it's a compensation. Catherine always talks about these parasitic tensions, like that's the Feldenkrais term, I guess. And if you're bracing somewhere, that means something else is not doing its job, right? So which muscles or which body part is not doing its job? Where are you lacking stability so that your body feels like it has to compensate, like in the shoulder or in this hip or wherever, right? By gripping with your legs, it could be any number of things.
Like if your rib cage is braced, you're going to be giving somewhere else. When the rib cage, actually the ribs should be opening and closing a little bit. Each breath and each stride, you know, there should be movement and opening, closing this way, but also this way. There should be this ability but some riders, they learn to brace their rib cage to create stability when they're creating stability in the wrong place. Actually, I was also thinking, because you were talking about this yesterday, how I used to have this wobble in my midsection in the lumbar region. I had been taught this many, many years ago, and you don't remember how I stopped that. And so I was thinking on this a little bit today. And I remembered, Catherine may not agree with me because it's a bit of a Pilates concept, but I would think of taking the belly button and as if I was sewing a button. You know, I would like bringing the needle from the spine through the belly button and back to the spine. And this helped me engage just enough. And it wasn't like engaging everything. It was just enough that helped me stabilize this. And that really helped. It is a Pilates concept. I do believe, although I learned it from a yoga teacher that also taught Pilates. So that helped me quite a bit. That helped me get the stability, and that then, because I took out that excess movement, it made me have to pay attention to where I needed to move. My hips, the hips needed to move more, my other joints needed to move more. But it allowed me to then look at them, because if you have one place that's super mobile, it's going to give there so much you can't see the other places. You have to clear that up so that you can see the other places that you need to become more mobile. Yeah. Okay. More comments?
Yeah. Jane Foster says those moments you mentioned feel like you're sitting on a wave. It's amazing, but my horses are not young or well put together, so those moments are special. Yeah, they come and go. And of course, if you have a horse with really good conformation, it's easy to get there. If you have a horse with really difficult conformation, it's a lot harder. If you have horses with injuries or horses that are getting arthritic, and it gets more difficult, of course, then you have to work harder for it, and it takes longer to get it, goes away faster, and so on. Yeah, so that can get frustrating, but if you look at the situation objectively and really assess the horse, and you realize it's not all your fault. The horse maybe comes with certain issues, and either conformation or history or whatever, and you just deal with the situation, make the best of what you have. Try to improve the horse a little bit, and that's really all we can hope for, right? That the horse ends the session a little better than he started, and from week to week, month to month, the horse improves a little bit.
B Progress says, perhaps a great short description of exactly where the riding core is located and what it feels like when you use it. I think she's asking for this.
Oh, hold on a second. What was that? Perhaps a great short description of exactly where the riding core. Well, I always think of I used to think of a muscle ring around my lumbar spine. It's like above the top of the pelvis and below the lowest rib. That's of course an area of great mobility, right? Your lumbar spine and your neck, they're the most mobile parts of your spine. That's good because that allows you to move and allows you to sit the trot and the canter. But sometimes people get excessively mobile there, and then you become unstable and you get wobbly and so on. So you need to find the right amount of movement, but you also have to have a degree of stability. And for me, what helped me was to think of increasing my body density around the lumbar spine so that I wasn't bracing the muscles or anything. I wasn't holding my breath. It was just feeling like my muscles get, I don't know, just a little more solid, a little bit denser, and that created stability around the lumbar spine. It's really on all sides, surrounding the lumbar spine, and that allowed me to let go of my hips. I felt that I found out at some point that if I relaxed my muscles around the lumbar spine too much, if I let them get too soft, my hips would lock up, and then I would typically tip forward as the next thing. It was like this domino effect that was totally predictable once I had understood how it worked. And then instead of preventing myself from falling forward with my shoulders or focusing on becoming supple in my hips, I felt like actually I only have to watch that this first domino piece doesn't fall over. So I need to maintain that just enough density and solidity around my lumbar spine, and then my hips won't lock up, and then my shoulders won't tip forward. There was a big aha moment when I discovered that, like there was this causality chain basically. And I suspect that everybody has them. Maybe they're slightly different for everybody. You know, there are probably some common ones that everybody has. But you can find that out, right? It's like work your way backwards from the big symptom you see. What causes that? And what causes that? And what causes that? And what causes that? Like, what's the first thing that goes wrong, so to speak, that triggers all the next 10 issues that show up? And then see if you can, you know, deal with that very first thing that goes wrong. Can you prevent that? What do you have to do to prevent that? And then you probably don't have to worry about all the others because they won't be triggered. You know, if you can prevent that very first thing from going wrong. Yeah, so that was a big focus from my writing like 25 years ago or whatever. You know, when I was really on my own, didn't have a teacher who could tell me what to do. You know, so I had to figure it all out by myself with the help of the horses. And so that was a big growth period, actually, right? And so I developed all these strategies that we're now teaching, to the students. Marjorie Phillips here says, I saw someone with the extreme movement of the spine. I wondered if she were doing it on purpose, couldn't help it, or she was so supple she was lucky. Yeah, if it's an excessive movement, then it's usually not good, and it's probably not necessarily on purpose.
Although mine was on purpose. I mean, it was both, I was hypermobile, but I had been taught that that's what I needed to do by no one around here. This was a long time ago, my early dressage years. Yeah.
Maria says it's interesting to hear you describe how you address the hypermobility, Shana. So it may sometimes help to look at the symptoms, i.e. body parts that move too much, rather than always aiming to find the body part that's not moving enough.
It was a simultaneous thing in order to see anything else, because that was just where I gave, and I had no reason to look anywhere else because my body was moving. I had to find some stability, but my horses they actually form, followed, function. My horses required that stability of me to go better. And so it was by necessity I had to figure that out. And then I realized I have to swing my hips a lot more. I have to figure out how to get much more mobility in my hip joints and find how to swing them and allow the hips to swing and open up, in the hip joint open and close so that the hip can go up and down each stride. Because before, what was doing is I was just wiggling, horribly, which is why I have back problems to this day. I'm sure that's why.
For me, it was a thought process. It's like if you think of typical scenario where the rider has noisy hands and banging legs, then some teachers will tell you, well, hold your hands still or hold your legs still. But you can't, right? The more you try to hold your hands still or sit still, the noisier you get, because this excessive movement is a compensation because some other body part isn't moving. Well, then you go from, okay, why are my hands banging? Well, I'm locked up here in this body part. Then, okay, relax that body part. Well, I can't, because that's what keeps me on the horse. If I let go, I fall off, right? So how can I stabilize myself and keep myself on the horse without bracing in that, like my hip joints, how can I let my hip joints go without bouncing off or falling or sliding off the horse? Where do I need to stabilize myself? So you can see it was this, okay, from here to here to here to here. And then when I realized, I need to engage here so I can let go there, and then my hands become quiet.
And how can I find a better balance so that I don't need to grip or whatever to stay, so that I'm so balanced and centered in the saddle that I don't need all of these extraneous things just to stay on, which is a horrible use of energy anyway. So it's a little bit 7 degrees of separation. It came from balance and straightness and other things, but you saw it in the beginnings, right?
Yeah, so
you know, and then you could say, okay, well, you know, allow the shoulders to swing a little bit more. Help a little bit of it, and when the shoulders, you know, when you allow your upper body to swing a little bit more, the hands get a little bit more stable. But when it comes down to it, that's still a symptom. You have to go deeper. You have to find the root cause, which is these parasitic muscle patterns that had developed way early. And you have to undo these, and you have to find a better balance. And this is where the Feldenkrais stuff is so helpful.
Yeah.
I wish I had known about it so many years ago. It would have helped so much.
Yeah, and I guess in a way, you know, this convoluted thought process I was describing is a little bit my journey of discovery of what Catherine always says, that all these malfunctions are in a pattern.
Yeah.
That's why you can't just say hold your hands still or relax your hips. You have to look at the whole pattern and see how it all works together, just like with the horse. And then you can make tweaks and you know, it's like, you know, stabilize here, relax there, do this, do that. And then the whole pattern changes. You know, you can't just go in and surgically alter one thing. That doesn't work, right? It doesn't work with a horse, doesn't work with a rider.
No.
And that's what makes it complicated, because you have to understand the pattern in yourself and in the horse.
As a system.
Yeah.
You know, our whole body works as a system. When you affect one part, it affects everything else too. So by trying to stabilize the hands by holding them tighter, or, you know, trying to get them not to move as much, it actually creates a whole new patterns of tension. It's sort of like, for many years, people tried to correct the crookedness by, you know, and I tried to figure that out too, you know, by instead you lift the shoulder and you bring that one down. But actually the root cause of the crookedness, the collapsing in the hip, comes from something else entirely. This is just a symptom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could come from your pelvis or from your feet, or even from the horse, because the horse's pelvis is crooked, and that then so you sit on an incline, and then your spine has to somehow
You have to
compensate and accommodate.
You have to go deeper. You have to go deeper, because the whole body works as a system. Just correcting symptoms is just throwing band-aids on it.
Yeah.
You're not fixing it.
Exactly. You have to see the pattern, and you have to see what's the root cause of all these symptoms that I'm seeing.
But the beauty of it is when you find that, it makes everything else better. You realize that crookedness, maybe you had a crookedness in your pelvis that was causing you to sit, you know, a little slight bit wonky in your pelvis, but this then was magnified as it went through the body, and it ends up with this crookedness like this, and this, you know, the left hand higher and the right hand lower and pulling back or something like that, you know, and then it shows up with the legs. And all of these, when you fix this one little thing, immediately all these other things start to get better, and stiffness in your horse gets better because he's no longer having to compensate for all of this. So it has this cascading effect of magnitude. You know, when you fix one little thing, one little basic thing, it has this huge compounding effect throughout all of your seat, your effectiveness, how comfortable you are in your riding and your balance, and it affects your confidence, it affects your horse, the horse's weight point. It's just this huge compounding. The importance of the seat. Yeah. Okay.
Melissa Smith says, I played with two of your ideas from yesterday, creating contact with the back, then raising just a bit more, looking for the horse to find that raised up seat. Let's say both horses were conscious of my change and made an effort to raise up and join me. Cool. Also tried the stirrup, stepping inside front, outside hind, and canter, and raised up. I could note a change. Well, good.
Cool.
Can't wait for class to start. As you mentioned, looking for horse to reach down. I also tried to contact the bit 2 strides, then release a little before the 3rd stride, and they reach toward that contact, same as reaching up to the seat. Thanks for the thorough explanation. So good, I'm glad you explored it.
Good job.
Yeah, it's good
Melissa.
when you play around with these ideas and the concepts, and then see what the horse thinks of that.
Smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Maria Meister says, I have a 10-year-old fjord that's generally very bendy and flexible. The bane of our existence is her right hind. Every blockage seems to originate here, all the way to how she tightens her jaw to the left when she travels left. Will I ever break through this blockage? Yeah, these things tend to linger for a long time. You can make them smaller and smaller, and you have to work on the balance and the suppleness and the straightness and connecting the feet to the ground. You probably have to bring the right hind leg under the body and connect it to the weight and the ground and so on. And then she'll let go of that left jaw. But it will come back too, you know. I mean, could have conformational issues. Maybe she had an injury at some point, so she favors that right hind leg a little bit and then tends to lean on the left shoulder. But every horse has these asymmetries, just like we do. And so you can make them smaller, you know, you can have moments where everything feels fairly even on both sides, but it will always require some attention, otherwise it will come back. You know? Like if you get slightly sloppy with the arena patterns, then this crookedness will come back differently.
So HHP asks or says, thank you, very interesting. Can these exercises or uses of these patterns be done in a pasture? It is definitely not a smooth surface. Thanks.
You can, but I would put markers out so that you can be sure that your circles are round and straight lines are straight. And when you ride circles to the left and circles to the right, they need to be the same diameter, because the horse will try to make the voltas or the circles bigger in one direction, smaller in the other. And in order to really balance and straighten the horse and achieve this throughness and suppleness and so on, the geometry has to be right? Voltas have to be the same size left and right. They have to be round. Straight lines have to be straight and so on. So if you can set out markers that to help you navigate, then it's okay. And, I mean, if the terrain is really uneven, then it can be tricky to establish a steady tempo, because then they speed up and slow down.
And the horse will brace their back a little bit because of the unevenness, especially if it's harder in some spots and softer in others. So you're going to have to deal with that too.
Yeah, but if it's relatively level, doesn't have to be like a golf course or anything, but you know, little bit of unevenness should be okay. If you have gopher holes, it's not good. Or you know, like big drops or big boulders in there, you know, then makes
incorporate it as an obstacle. Then I mean, you have to get creative. Then we have students that sometimes do most of the training in the course out on the trail, and they just make use of this space that they have. So I mean, use what you have. Don't wait until everything is perfect before you start, because it will never be perfect. Use what you have, start where you are, and you just chip away at it and make it do as good as you can with what you have.
And if you have to deal with an arena that's not ideal, you may have to memorize the topography. And then you have to plan, like here there is this weird, it's the footing is too deep or it's too hard. I'm going to avoid that. I'm not going to ride into that, and then see where do you make your arena in the pasture, and then think about where do I do my up transitions, where do I do my down transitions, because maybe there's a little bit of a slope.
Or even if it's relatively level, sometimes it goes just a little bit down in one place, and you can feel that when you're riding that it affects the horse. So you have to keep that in mind and plan for things.
And so you make it easier for the horse that you're doing transitions and certain things where the terrain helps you. Like if you need to lengthen the stride, I wouldn't do it on a downhill slope, because that invites the horse to just run away, and get faster, and then it's hard to keep the horse in balance. It's much easier to lengthen the stride when the terrain goes uphill a little bit. Same thing with a canter. If you do a canter depart, I would do this on a piece of the pasture that's slightly uphill, not on one that's downhill, for example, things like that. So that it takes a little bit more planning. If the surface is not 100% level and horizontal, then you have to kind of memorize the topography and pick out spots that are conducive to like good transitions, good lateral movements, good whatever. Like don't ride a half pass up the hill, for example, especially in a difficult direction, because that makes it way too difficult. But if you ride it downhill, if you have a little bit of a slope.
Especially in the beginning when you're trying to find ways to make
Yeah.
it easier for the horse in the difficult direction, especially.
Yeah, and then riding your half pass, on the slope going down, gravity helps you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden your half pass is a lot easier than it would be in the totally horizontal arena. So yeah, you can work around the
We've had to do it too.
disadvantages. Oh yeah, we had to ride in crappy arenas a lot.
And
over
one
the
time we
years.
made an arena out of a clearing in a forest,
Yeah.
and
that
it was
actually
just kind
nice.
of it was a beautiful setting, but it was not perfect.
Mhm, yeah,
I had to stretch. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just a grass clearing, and we cordoned it off and rode in there.
Yeah, you can make do. You can work around the challenges. It just takes a little bit more thought and a little bit more planning sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then let's see here. Vicky Sheridan asks, is the course July through October? It starts tomorrow, and then it ends when it ends. It's a it's a beta course, which means we're creating it as we go. We're taking it generally takes a couple of weeks for each module to be finished and completed, and then when we're finished with one, we put out the next one. And then so basically the course goes until we are done creating the content. If partway we get through and everyone's requesting that we do a whole other module on something we hadn't even thought to do a module on, we do it, we add it in. So it will go until we get all the material completed. And that means there will be Q&As and all the way to the end. We have scheduled them through, we've set aside 2 weeks for each module right now, just to be very conservative, but I promise you it'll take longer than that to do this course or to get through our production of the course, because sometimes it just takes longer. And there will be Q&As, there will be support all the way through every step of the way. She also asked, we can send in videos to be evaluated also.
Yeah.
You'll be posting the videos into the Facebook group. So I recommend though that you upload them to a private channel on YouTube, set them to private or whatever, or unlisted, or upload them to Dropbox or something like that, and then post the link into the Facebook group, because Facebook doesn't like big files, and then we'll give feedback in there. Just tag us. Tag us if we don't see it, and we will give feedback. There are not hot seats. We're giving feedback in the group because we want everyone to, it's a beta course, so it's a different experience. When we rerun the course again, it'll probably be run with hot seats. And as a beta course participant, you get full participation in the next run of the course, including whatever we include in there. So you get to take the course this time. You have lifetime access to that. And you get to take the course on the next run. When we run it again next year, or whenever we run it again, usually it's the next year, you'll get full participation in that course, including all the feedback, all the hot seats, whatever, Q&As, everything, every last little bit of it, full participation automatically. It's a great deal, really. And the reason we do this is so that we can get people that are really fully invested in participating, so that we can make it a really good course. That's how we make really good courses. Like I call it our secret sauce. That's how I make the courses really good, because we take what you all need and we put it in the course. So we're not guessing what you need. We're taking what you actually need and putting it in there. Okay. Let me check. Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Let me. Oh, there. Maybe there's. Vicky says, I have to remember to breathe. My mare was a bit nervous and I couldn't believe how she relaxed when I took a deep breath and exhaled. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. It happens when you get very concentrated on technical stuff. Sometimes we hold our breath. Happens to me sometimes too. And I have to remind myself to breathe once in a while. And that has a relaxing effect on horses, definitely. The breathing.
I don't think I tend to hold my breath when I'm riding. I don't think I do.
So I get overly
I know a lot of
focused
people
on
do. I
certain
have quite a lot of people that do, but I have different set of issues that I deal with, but that's not one of them, thankfully. Just checking for, yeah, no questions on Facebook. You guys ask some questions.
It's been
Or we
an
wrap
hour
it up.
already.
Yeah. Wow. We can
Time
jabber.
flies.
We can jabber. Okay. Well, I'll start to wrap it up then. As a reminder, this, you're gonna hear it again from me. This brand new course starts tomorrow. I am gently keeping the doors open for a little bit longer for those of you who can't scrape together the money to enroll right away. I have had a few people that say they don't get paid until, a week or so from now, can they still get in? And I said, yes, you can still get in, but you're gonna miss out on the first week or so. That's all it is. I will eventually close it down and you won't be able to get in once we get a little further way into the course. You won't be able to get in, but for the next week or so. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, looking forward to the course starting tomorrow. Yes, so tomorrow we have welcome Q&A and orientation. It's a party. Bring your wine or your coffee or tea or whatever it is. And we're going to celebrate because this is a really fun experience. It's a very special experience to be in a beta course. It's special for us too, actually. For a beta course, every time we run a beta course, it's a very special experience. There's nothing like it for us too, for everyone. But we'll also be explaining how things are going to work because it's a little different than how the regular courses work. And those of you that are new to our courses, there are a number of you that are, we explain how things work. And so we'll be explaining, how to do this or that, how we navigate the course platform, how you'll be notified that things have arrived, that there's new content, because it's not like a regular course where on every Friday, the module is released and everything's there. It's not going to be there every Friday. There's going to be a few things there and then it'll trickle in over the next few days. But we will let you guys know as each thing gets added. We'll say, hey, we just got a new video, go watch it. And Thomas wrote this and explained this and so on. And that's the other thing I should point out. We're doing writer demos. We're doing writer demos in this. That means we're writing in it too and explaining what we're doing as we're doing it today. Thomas wrote one of the patterns and actually wrote one of the stepping patterns and two of the exercises.
One exercise for module 1, one for module 2.
With a mic on him, and he explained what he was doing as he was doing it, and explained, oh, there was, laughed when there was a difficulty or something. He explained how he deals with it, explained what he was thinking, how he was navigating, how he was strategizing, what he was feeling for, what he's trying to get. So he explained all of this, and we also have our top instructors will also be providing demos of themselves, also writing, and we'll be doing commentary on their videos. So you can see it done really well by a number of really good writers. So you know what to aim for. I find it really helpful to watch good writing. And I think a lot of other people do too. So we're really incorporating that on an even higher level than we ever have before in this course. So let's see here. Will there be theory sessions for each module? Yep.
Theory in every module. There's a visualization in every module. There are
visualization is an imagery lesson. So we take an image of something. For example, the other day we talked about the wave, like you're writing the swell of a wave. That energy is like the swell of a wave, and that would be like an imagery. We would have an illustration drawn of that, and then we would explain it and tell you how you can incorporate that. So sorry, I wanted to explain what that was. Go ahead.
Practical exercises in every module.
At least 2 writing exercises and 1 stirrup stepping. There's Feldenkrais lessons. There's audio lessons that you can listen to as you're writing that can, explain, kind of guide you. Feel for this, feel for that. Do you feel this? Don't forget to, think about this, or explore this. What do you feel? Things like this, so that we're really taking the elements of each module and helping you incorporate it into your writing through these audio lessons. Yeah. And there's Q&As every 2 weeks. There's a Facebook group where you can ask questions day or night. And you can post videos in there, and we're going to give you feedback. And let's see, Caroline says, I'm already in the straightness course. It will be too much, but you really make it very tempting. I know. I'm sorry. Yes. Martina says, very, very interesting. Thank you for the chance that I can listen to you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, and Maria says, oh, did we read this one? Yeah. Oh, Maria says, thanks for very interesting sessions this week. If I hadn't already signed up for TOTA, that's timing of the aids, I would definitely have joined this course next time. See you in TOTA. Yeah. Our next course after that we are releasing is timing of the aids. And it's very closely tied to this. They're really good companion courses. That, and we have a new course coming out later this year called Half Halt Explained that also goes into timing of the aids, covers half halts, but this is just a deep focus on just half halts. And yeah, so these are all good companions to each other. We have a number of people that asked about groundwork in this course, and it's not a groundwork course. It is a writing course, but we are going to explain the importance of using groundwork, especially lunging, to support the back movement, the development of the back movement, and how important it is to use that, or how you use that in your warm-up. But we're not giving groundwork exercises every week.
We have a course for that.
We have a course for that is called Top Line Makeover. It's not currently open for enrollment, but we do have a course that's all just groundwork to develop the top line, which is the back. It is this back musculature to develop this using only groundwork. And you can expect that to open sometime late this year, I think. I haven't factored it into the schedule just yet because I haven't juggling a few things. Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Terry says, thanks for these this week. Very helpful. I can't wait to start tomorrow. I know, me too. It's been a nice way to kind of slide into it, to warm up ourselves to have these conversations, to warm all of you up. And those of you that are joining in the course, the recordings of these sessions are inside of the course. You can watch the recordings inside of there and download them. And Caroline says, I'm looking forward to the half course. Yeah. I think that's, when is that, October or something? Off the top of my head, maybe October. I can't remember. It has a set date. I just don't know it off the top of my head. Okay. Checking here. Okay, there's more on Facebook. Inca Spatafora, I really like that you guys are writing with explanations of what you felt and how you responded. To see how the horse will change to be more correct will be a great visual. Thank you. That's awesome. You're welcome. Yeah, Inca's been around in our courses from the very first course. She's an old timer, and I mean that in a nice way. Charlotte Palmer Benson asks, are there exercises included? Yes. Writing exercises, specific writing gymnastic patterns that you ride with your horse. Every week we introduce 2 new writing exercises and 1 new stirrup stepping pattern that you can do with your horse. And we explain how stirrup stepping works. In fact, one of the bonuses for the course is the introduction to stirrup stepping course, which explains how to do all of this, so that you can just immediately, if you enroll right now, you could immediately go through that course content right now, tonight, today, whatever, right now, immediately. In fact, all of the bonuses except one you have full immediate access to The only bonus you don't have full access to, Thomas is falling asleep there.
I'm tired, so I'm
Yeah.
gonna log in
Yeah.
today.
Is a brand new masterclass series we're producing called Dressage Principles based on Biomechanics masterclass series. We were going to do it last year and we had some interruptions. And so it got postponed a year and we're doing it this year. Many of you already have it. You already got it as a bonus for what, why, how, but we're also giving it as bonus for this course. And that starts in October.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one starts in October, I know for sure. And that's a 12-month basically program where we do one theory session and has some exercises to support it. And the whole group discusses this concept for 1 month. And then we move on the next month to the next concept, 12 months. Really cool program. Dr. Cohn says, I'm so interested, but have never had a writing lesson. So hard to rationalize the expenditure. Hopefully you have a YouTube channel to get me going. Have written over 60 years and have an Icelandic. I need to get balanced. Look like neglect or previous injury. Have a wonderfully successful class. Would love your guidance, Jill Cohn. Yes, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Ritter Dressage. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Martina says that what I told her the other day about rein back, she tried today with the work in hand, was very effective. She says her horse grew so big. That's awesome. Yeah, rein back can be useful. Definitely.
Okay, and Charlotte Palmer Benson says good because the stirrup stepping is confusing. It is at first until you really realize you're making it much more difficult than it needs to be. The point is just step. At first, you don't have to get the timing perfect. It's okay, just step. Just learn how to step in one stirrup and then the other stirrup. And you'll notice your horse will probably already start to respond. And then you start to perfect your timing. And this actually makes the timing of the rest of your aids better by practicing with something as innocuous as a stirrup stepping. So you're later on, you want to be able to synchronize your rein aids and your leg aids with the footfalls too. But the stirrups are so much less disturbing to the horse. It's such a subtle, it's just a little weight aid. And so it's a really safe place to explore the timing and get your own coordination and communication down. It's a great learning opportunity to stirrup stepping. Let me just check on YouTube real quick. And Vicky Sheridan says, your courses have helped me most in making me a thinking writer and giving me a great toolbox to go to. Good. Very good. Very good. That's the objective. Yeah. That's what we want. Yep. We want you to, own this, that it's yours, and you become a thinking writer and you figure out how to train your horse yourself. That's what we want. Okay, we're going to wrap it up with that. I would love to see you all in the course. Please consider joining us. The link is posted here, but if you can't find it, you can also go to artisticdressage.com and it's on there. And you can also, if you have any questions at all, just email us at ritterdressage@gmail.com and we'll help you with any questions. Or if you have any payment problems, we'll help you. Thank you, everybody. And we'll see you soon.
Yep.
Yeah, hopefully we see you tomorrow in the orientation and welcome session this time tomorrow, or actually a little bit earlier. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.